Ethan never thought his life would take such a strange turn. He was an ordinary young man, living on the outer colonies of human space, searching for work to pay his debts. Jobs were rare, and most of them were dangerous mining asteroids, guarding trade ships, or repairing reactors. But when a message blinked on his old come screen, offering steady pay for care services, Ethan felt hope rise for the first time in months. The contract was simple, or so it seemed. It mentioned special care duties, nutritional support, and close supervision, but the details were vague. Ethan didn't read the fine print. He was too tired of hunger and rejection to worry about the small letters. The payment was more than double what he had earned in any other job, and the contract promised food and shelter inside the facility. Without thinking twice, he signed, unaware that his life was about to enter the strangest chapter of all. The journey to the facility was unsettling. He boarded a small shuttle, its windows tinted black so no one could see outside. Two silent guards in white armor sat across from him, their faces hidden behind smooth helmets. No one spoke during the flight, and the silence made Ethan's nerves tighten with every passing minute. Where exactly was he going? What kind of care services needed such secrecy? When the shuttle landed, Ethan stepped into a massive underground complex. The air was heavy with a sweet, strange scent like flowers, mixed with something unfamiliar. Bright lights lined the walls, and the halls seemed endless, curving deeper into the earth. Other workers passed by, but none made eye contact. Their heads lowered as if afraid to look. Ethan swallowed hard, feeling as if he had stepped into a prison rather than a workplace. At the reception, a tall woman with metallic implants on her temples greeted him coldly. "You are assigned to Wing 7, she said, handing him a small tablet with instructions. "You will follow all rules strictly. You will not question orders. And you will never attempt to leave without permission." Her tone was sharp, leaving no space for argument. Ethan nodded nervously, clutching the tablet like a lifeline. As he walked deeper into the corridors, the strange scent grew stronger. Then he began hearing soft murmurs, voices that were not quite human. They were melodic, almost like songs, but filled with a sadness that tugged at his chest. Ethan stopped at a reinforced door marked with glowing symbols he didn't understand. The guards opened it with a code, and what he saw inside made him freeze. The room was wide and filled with soft blue light. In the center were several beds, each holding a figure alien girls. They were unlike anything Ethan had ever seen. Their skin glowed faintly in colors of silver, green, and violet. Their hair floated slightly as if carried by an unseen breeze. Each of them looked weak, tired, but their eyes, large and bright, watched him with deep curiosity. Ethan's heart pounded. So this was the job? Caring for alien girls in some kind of medical ward? The contract suddenly didn't feel simple anymore. One of the aliens, taller than the others, raised her head and spoke in soft, broken English. "You are the new caretaker?" Ethan nodded hesitantly. "Yes, I'm Ethan," he said, though his voice came out more nervous than he wanted. The alien girl gave a faint smile, though her expression held both relief and sorrow. "We need you," she whispered, before closing her eyes again, as if the effort of speaking had drained her strength. A shiver ran through Ethan. This was no ordinary job. Something was hidden behind these walls. Something far more complicated than care services. The alien girls were fragile, vulnerable, and yet there was something powerful about them. The glowing marks on their arms and necks seemed to pulse with life, as though carrying secrets unknown to humans. Why did the facility need guards? Why the secrecy? That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. The dorm they gave him was small and bare, with a single bed and a locked door. The scent of the alien chamber still lingered in his nose, and the memory of their glowing eyes haunted him. What kind of caretaker had he become? Was he helping them, or was he part of something darker? The silence of the underground halls pressed on his ears like a weight, broken only by distant, sorrowful songs echoing through the vents. Ethan stared at the ceiling, his heart heavy with unease. He had signed the contract for money and survival. But now he felt trapped in a mystery that was bigger than himself. The assignment was strange, yes, but it was also dangerous, somewhere deep inside. Ethan knew this was only the beginning, and whatever secrets this place held, he was now bound to discover them. The next morning, Ethan woke to the sound of a sharp knock on his door. When he opened it, a guard stood there, silent as always, motioning for him to follow. Ethan felt his stomach tighten with unease, but he forced himself to walk, clutching the small tablet he had been given. The halls were quiet, the same sweet but heavy scent filling the air. Guiding him back to Wing 7, when the reinforced door opened again, Ethan stepped inside. This time he was ready for what he would see, but the sight still left him breathless. The alien girls were awake now, their luminous eyes watching him carefully. They sat or lay on their beds, their strange garments glowing faintly with shifting colors, as if alive. It felt less like a medical ward and more like a sanctuary built for beings not of this world. One of them, the tallest, lifted her head first. Her hair was silver and long, almost floating in the air as if it weighed nothing. Her skin shimmered with faint blue light, and her voice came softly, broken but gentle. "You are Ethan," she said, remembering his name from the night before. Ethan nodded, unsure if he should bow or speak more, his nerves making him stiff. Another girl laughed lightly, though her tone carried sadness too. Her skin was green, with glowing marks running across her arms like flowing rivers. "You look frightened," she said, her words halting but understandable. Ethan forced a small smile. "I am," he admitted. The alien girls exchanged glances, as if they understood more than he could guess. Lyra, the silver-haired one, beckoned him closer. Her eyes were brighter than the others, filled with a strange mixture of wisdom and sorrow. When Ethan approached, he noticed her body was thin, weak, yet her glowing marks pulsed slowly, as if alive with energy. She reached out her hand, her touch surprisingly warm. "You are caretaker," she whispered. "Not guard, not scientist, you must care." The words struck Ethan deeply. Care, not control, not experiment, but real care. He felt something stir in his chest, a responsibility he had not expected when he signed the contract. The alien girls needed him, not as a worker, but as a protector of their fragile existence. He nodded slowly. "I will care," he said, and the girls seemed to relax just slightly. But even in that moment, Ethan noticed something strange. One of the girls, smaller and younger than the others, flinched every time a guard walked by the window. Her glowing marks were dimmer, almost fading, and she refused to meet his eyes. Ethan's heart ached. Something was wrong here, something that no one was telling him. This wasn't just a job, it was a hidden truth waiting to be uncovered. The day passed with Ethan learning the basics of his duties. He had to check on their nutrition, record their energy levels, and comfort them when needed. It sounded simple, but nothing about it felt simple. The food trays glowed faintly, filled with liquids that smelled sweet but strange. The girls drank slowly, their eyes often darting toward Ethan as if measuring his intentions. At one point, Lyra asked him a question that froze him in place. "Do you believe we are safe here?" she whispered. Ethan hesitated, unsure of how to answer. He wanted to say yes, but the guarded halls, the locked doors, and the constant surveillance told a different story. Finally, he said, "I don't know." And the alien girl gave a sad smile, as if that answer was already expected. That night, as Ethan prepared to leave the wing, he heard soft voices behind him. The alien girls were speaking in their own language, melodic and haunting, though he could not understand the words. He felt the weight of their emotions, fear, hope, and something unspoken. He turned one last time, and Lyra's glowing eyes met his. "Tomorrow," she whispered faintly, "we show you more." Ethan walked back through the halls, his thoughts spinning. The job was stranger than he had ever imagined, but now it was more than just survival. The alien girls were not only fragile beings in need of care, they were hiding something, and somehow, Ethan knew, he was meant to uncover it, whatever secrets lay ahead. His journey had only just begun. Ethan's second full day inside the facility did not begin easily. He was given a long list of duties on his tablet, written in cold, clinical words that made little sense. Nutritional regulation, emotional stabilization, energy balance support. He read aloud with a frown. It sounded less like caring for living beings and more like maintaining machines. But the moment he entered Wing 7, he realized nothing on that list could prepare him for reality. The alien girls were restless, their glowing marks pulsing faster than before. Some of them whispered anxiously in their own language, their voices like songs filled with unease. Others refused to eat, pushing away the glowing trays that smelled of sweet liquid. When Ethan approached one of them with kindness, she shook her head and murmured, "Not safe." Ethan's confusion deepened. What could possibly be unsafe inside a place guarded by soldiers and locked doors? His first real challenge came quickly. One of the smaller girls suddenly cried out, clutching her chest as her glowing marks flickered weakly. The guards outside ignored it, as if it was normal, but Ethan panicked. He rushed to her side, trying to remember the instructions. He offered the glowing liquid, but she turned away, her lips trembling. She whispered in broken English, "It hurts, inside, please help." Ethan's hand shook, but he placed his palm against her shoulder. To his shock, the glowing marks brightened faintly at his touch. The girl sighed with relief, her breathing slowing, though tears rolled down her cheeks. Ethan stared in disbelief, wondering if his presence alone had helped her. But the guards outside exchanged uneasy glances, as if they had seen something forbidden. That night, when Ethan returned to his small dorm, he heard strange noises through the vents. At first he thought it was the alien girls singing again, but these sounds were different. They were heavier, darker, like footsteps and scraping metal echoing through the pipes. He pressed his ear closer, his heart racing. Whatever it was, it didn't sound like part of the facility's normal routine. The next morning, Lyra confronted him. Her silver hair floated gently around her face, and her glowing eyes looked serious. "You touched her," she said softly, but her voice carried weight. Ethan nodded slowly, unsure if he had broken some hidden rule. Lyra studied him, then whispered, "You have connection, human spirit, and our energy. They listen to you." Ethan felt a chill. He had only wanted to help, but now it seemed he had crossed into something deeper. The alien girls were not just patients. They were connected to forces he didn't understand. And somehow he was part of it now, whether he wanted to be or not. His second challenge came later that day. While he was checking the records on his tablet, the power in Wing 7 flickered. The lights dimmed, alarms flashed, and the alien girls cried out in fear. The guards rushed past, shouting orders, while Ethan stood frozen in confusion. Suddenly, a section of the wall hissed open, revealing machinery he had never seen before. Pipes filled with glowing liquid pulsed like veins, carrying energy deeper into the facility. The alien girls huddled together, whispering rapidly in their language. Lyra turned to Ethan, her face pale with fear. "They take too much," she said. "They drain us. They make us weak." Ethan's chest tightened with anger. He finally understood this job was never about simple care. It was about control, about using the alien girls as living sources of power. But before he could ask more, a loud crash echoed from beyond the walls. The facility shook, dust falling from the ceiling. The guards rushed out, leaving Ethan alone with the alien girls. Their glowing marks flickered dangerously, their voices trembling as they clung to each other. Ethan realized in that moment that his role was no longer just caretaker. He was the only one they trusted, the only one standing between them and something far worse. That night, when he returned to his dorm, the noises through the vents were louder. This time, he clearly heard a voice, deep and harsh, speaking words he could not understand. Ethan backed away, his chest tight, his mind racing. What danger was hidden in this underground place? Why were the alien girls so afraid? And why did his very presence seem to matter so much? He lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The job was no longer strange, it was terrifying. The challenges had only begun, and Ethan could feel it deep in his bones. Something was coming. Something the facility could no longer contain, and when it arrived, he knew he would be forced to choose between obeying orders and protecting the alien girls who now looked to him for survival. The alarms from the previous night still echoed in Ethan's mind. He could not forget the trembling voices of the alien girls, nor the fear in Lyra's glowing eyes. Something was wrong here, far beyond what the contract had promised, and Ethan knew he could no longer stay blind. He had to uncover the truth hidden in the walls of this underground place. The next morning, his tablet buzzed with new instructions. This time, they were stricter, filled with warnings. Do not enter restricted areas. Do not interfere with energy transfer. Report any abnormal activity immediately. The words made Ethan's stomach twist. Why so many warnings now? What had really happened during the power flicker yesterday? As he walked to Wing 7, he noticed details he had missed before. The walls were lined with faint seams, as if hiding doors. Strange machines hummed softly behind the metal, their vibrations running through the floor. Guards patrolled more heavily, their helmets turning sharply at every movement. It felt less like a care facility and more like a fortress guarding a dangerous secret. When Ethan entered the alien chamber, the girls were weaker than before. Their glowing marks were dim, their shoulders slumped, their eyes heavy with exhaustion. Lyra looked at him and whispered, "They drained us again." Her voice was faint, but the anger behind it was strong. Ethan clenched his fists. What exactly was the facility taking from them? Later that night, while everyone slept, Ethan made his move. He had noticed that one guard always lingered near a panel outside Wing 7. When the guard stepped away, Ethan slipped close and studied the controls. With a trembling hand, he pressed a button, and a small section of the wall slid open silently. Behind it lay a narrow corridor, dark and humming with strange energy. Ethan slipped inside, heart pounding. The air was warmer here, and faint blue light pulsed through pipes along the walls. The pipes looked disturbingly similar to the glowing marks on the alien girls' bodies. It was as if their very essence was being carried away, harvested like fuel. Ethan's stomach turned. This was no care facility. It was a feeding machine. Not for the girls, but for something else. As he moved deeper, he found a room filled with large glass tanks. Inside them floated liquid that glowed with the same soft light as the girls' skin. Machines pumped it into massive storage units. Humming as if alive on a nearby screen, data scrolled quickly. Lactation energy output, stable. Memory extraction, in progress. Ethan staggered back. His breath caught in his throat. They weren't only draining the girls' strength, they were stealing their memories too. A voice startled him. "You should not be here." Ethan spun around to see a woman in a white coat, her face stern, her eyes cold. She didn't look surprised to find him, as if she had expected someone curious enough to wander. "This is restricted," she said flatly. "Your role is to keep them calm, nothing more." Her gaze narrowed. "Do not mistake care for freedom, human. They are property here." Her words burned through him. Property, she had called them, not living beings. Ethan's anger rose. But before he could speak, the woman turned and walked away. 2 guards appeared and escorted him back to his dorm without a word. That night, he lay awake, shaking, his mind filled with images of glowing tanks and stolen memories. The next day, Lyra studied his face carefully. "You know now," she said softly. "You saw what they do." Ethan nodded, his throat tight. The alien girls gathered close, their voices low, their eyes pleading. "You must help us," Lyra whispered, "or we will fade until nothing remains." Ethan felt the weight of their trust pressing on his shoulders. He had come here desperate for money, but now he was standing in the middle of something far greater. These girls were not prisoners of war or criminals. They were victims, stolen from their worlds, drained of their life and history. Their songs, their culture, their very essence all being erased. And Ethan knew if he did nothing, he would be no better than the guards who looked away. That night, he made a decision. He would no longer follow the rules blindly. He would watch, listen, and search for every secret this place was hiding. And when the time came, he would act. No matter the cost, the strange assignment he had taken for survival had turned into a dangerous mission, one that could cost him his life, but also give the alien girls their only chance at freedom. Ethan woke the next day with a heavy mind. The images of glowing tanks and stolen memories still burned behind his eyes. He could not forget the cold words of the scientist, calling the alien girls property, nor could he ignore Lyra's plea, her soft voice trembling with desperation. He knew he was standing on the edge of a choice: walk away in silence or step forward into danger. When he entered Wing 7, the girls were waiting. They had grown weaker, their glowing marks dim, their shoulders slumped as if carrying invisible chains. But when they saw Ethan, a spark of light returned to their eyes. It was not just relief, it was trust. And that trust hit Ethan harder than any order ever could. He sat beside Lyra, who was lying quietly with her hands folded across her chest. Her silver hair glowed faintly in the dim light. "You should not be here," she whispered. "This place will break you." Ethan shook his head, his voice firm for the first time. "Then let it try." "But I will not let them break you." Her eyes widened, and for a moment her lips trembled as if she would cry. But instead, she reached out her hand, and Ethan took it without hesitation. The warmth that flowed between them was unlike anything he had felt before. It was not human warmth, but something deeper, a pulse that seemed to echo with hidden memories. For the first time, Ethan realized he was not just helping them survive, he was becoming part of them. Over the next days, the bond grew stronger. The girls began to open up, teaching him small words of their language. Their voices were soft, melodic, carrying stories he could not fully understand. But their eyes told him more than words ever could: pain, hope, and the fragile thread of trust they now tied to him. He learned their names, each one unique like a star in the night sky, and slowly, he began to see them not as patients, but as people with lives stolen away. One evening, when the guards left the wing unusually early, the girls gathered around him. Lyra spoke for them all, her voice low and serious. "They take from us more each day. Soon we will fade, but you, Ethan, you bring balance when you touch us." Ethan frowned, remembering the day when the smallest girl had calmed at his hand. "What do you mean?" he asked. Lyra closed her glowing eyes, whispering, "Your spirit holds harmony. It keeps the darkness away." Ethan felt a chill. He had never thought of himself as special, just a desperate man looking for work. Yet here, among these fragile beings, his presence mattered more than any guard or machine. For the first time in his life, he felt something larger than survival. He felt purpose. But not everyone welcomed this bond. One guard pulled Ethan aside. The next morning, his voice sharp beneath the helmet. "Too close," the guard growled. "You are here to keep them calm, not to love them, not to believe their lies." Ethan stared back, his jaw tightening, but he said nothing. Still, his silence did not hide the fire burning inside him. He knew now he could never see them as property, no matter what the facility demanded. Later, while checking on the smallest girl, Ethan noticed her marks flickering weakly again. She looked at him with wide, frightened eyes, whispering, "Darkness comes." Ethan placed his hand gently against her arm, and the glow steadied. Tears slid down her cheeks, but her smile was pure and grateful. It was in that moment that Ethan understood his bond was not only emotional, it was keeping them alive that night. Ethan returned to his dorm with a heavy heart. Through the vents he again heard those dark voices, rumbling low, mixed with the sound of machinery. He closed his eyes, and for the first time, he felt fear not for himself, but for the alien girls. If the facility was draining them of life and memory, what would remain of them? Would they vanish as if they never existed? But then he remembered their faces, their trust, their hands reaching for him when fear struck them. And he swore silently to himself, "No matter what happens, I will not let them fade." the bond. Between Ethan and the alien girls was no longer just a connection of duty. It had become something sacred, something stronger than fear. And though he did not know how, Ethan knew this bond would soon be tested, because secrets were unraveling faster than ever, and somewhere in the dark halls of the facility, danger was already waiting. The bond between Ethan and the alien girls had grown unbreakable, but with every day that passed, their strength weakened, their glowing marks dimmed further. Ethan knew that if he waited too long, the facility would drain them until nothing remained. He had promised he would not let them fade. And now that promise burned inside him like fire. That evening, Lyra pulled him aside, her silver hair shimmering faintly under the blue lights. Her voice was soft but urgent. "We cannot stay here much longer. They will take the last of us soon." The other girls huddled close, their eyes filled with fear and hope at the same time. Ethan nodded, his heart pounding. "Then we escape," he said firmly. The words hung in the air like a forbidden spell. For a long moment, no one spoke, and then one by one, the girls nodded in silent agreement. The plan was simple, but dangerous. The girls revealed something Ethan had never seen before. Their glowing marks could release bursts of energy if focused together. Small sparks danced across their skin as they showed him. It was weak now, but enough to short out locks and sensors for a brief time. Ethan realized their bodies were not only being drained for fuel, their energy itself was the key to freedom. That night, when the facility grew quiet, Ethan waited for the sound of guards changing shifts. The halls outside Wing 7 dimmed, the hum of machines lowering for just a moment. Lyra nodded at him, her eyes steady, and the girls pressed there. Hands together, their glowing marks pulsed in rhythm, growing brighter. Then with a sudden flash, the door's lock fizzed and popped, and the reinforced door slid open slowly. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. For the first time, the alien girls stepped beyond their chamber. They moved carefully, their bare feet silent on the cold metal floors. Each step was heavy with fear, yet also with a fragile kind of hope. Ethan led them down the corridor, his tablet in hand, following the map he had memorized from stolen glances. The escape was not smooth. At the first corner, a guard appeared suddenly, his visor glowing red. He raised his weapon, but before he could fire, the smallest alien girl lifted her hand. Her marks flared brightly, and a wave of light burst from her palm. The guard was thrown back against the wall, unconscious, his weapon clattering to the ground. The girl trembled afterward, her energy nearly spent, but Ethan caught her before she could fall. "You're safe," he whispered. "We keep moving." They passed through more corridors, the hum of alarms beginning to rise in the distance. The facility had noticed something, and the calm silence was breaking. Red lights began flashing along the walls, shadows stretching as sirens wailed. Ethan's chest tightened, knowing they had little time left. But the sight of the docking bay door ahead filled him with new strength. Just as they reached it, the alarms grew louder, and heavy boots thundered behind them. The guards had arrived, weapons raised, their helmets glowing in the red light. Ethan pushed the alien girls behind him, his body trembling but his resolve firm. He grabbed the fallen guard's weapon, though. He had no training with it. Still, he aimed it forward, his voice low but fierce. "Stay back," the guards laughed coldly, their steps closing in. But then Lyra stepped forward, her silver hair glowing brighter than ever before. She placed her hand against the docking bay control panel, and her marks flared like fire. The entire wall shook as the door began to unlock with a heavy hiss. "Go," she whispered to Ethan, her body trembling. "I will hold them." Ethan shook his head, refusing to leave her. He grabbed her arm and pulled her with him, his voice desperate. "No, we all go together." The other girls joined, their glowing marks merging in rhythm. Together, they released a burst of light so bright it blinded the guards. The air vibrated with power as the docking bay door opened fully, revealing the dark hangar beyond. The group stumbled forward, their bodies weak but their spirits burning. Behind them, The guards shouted, blinded but regaining their weapons. Ahead, the hangar stretched wide, filled with silent ships waiting in rows. Ethan's heart pounded as he realized they were so close to freedom. But as the girls took their first steps inside, a deep rumble shook the air. From the far side of the hangar, a massive shadow moved. Metal groaned, engines hummed, and something far larger than any guard began to awaken. The girls gasped in terror, their glowing marks flickering violently. Ethan tightened his grip on the weapon, his jaw set. The escape had begun, but the real danger was only now revealing itself. The hangar shook as the massive shadow stepped forward. Ethan froze, staring at the towering figure of steel and wires rising from the far end of the bay. It was not a guard, nor a machine he recognized. It was a war-construct half-machine, half-living energy, powered by the very essence stolen from the alien girls. The creature's chest glowed with liquid light, pulsing like a heart. Ethan realized with horror that the glow was the same as the marks on the girl's skin. They had built this monster from their stolen strength. The alien girls clung to each other, their voices trembling as they whispered in their language. One word echoed clearly: "Destroyer." The guards shouted behind them, their weapons raised. The docking bay became a cage of danger, enemies on both sides. Ethan's chest pounded. But he stepped forward, weapon shaking in his hands. He had never been a soldier, never been a fighter, but in that moment, he knew he could not let the alien girls face this alone. Lyra moved beside him, her silver hair glowing like fire. Voice was steady, even though her body trembled. "This is what they wanted, to make war from our life, but you, Ethan, you can break it." Ethan turned to her, confused. "Me? How?" She placed her hand against his chest, and the warmth of her glowing mark spread through him. "You carry balance, you carry spirit. Together we can end this." The war construct roared, its voice a blend of machine and beast. It raised a massive arm and brought it crashing down. The floor shaking under the impact, Ethan pulled Lyra aside, the others following as dust and sparks filled the air. The battle had begun, and there was no turning back. The girls gathered in a circle, their marks glowing faintly. Ethan stood at the center, his hands gripping the weapon, his heart racing. Lyra's voice rose above the chaos, chanting words in her language. The other girls joined, their voices blending into a haunting melody. Ethan felt the air vibrate, the energy rising around them. The glow of their marks spread across the hangar, brighter and brighter. The war construct staggered, as if sensing the power building. It raised its weapon again. But Ethan lifted his arm and fired. The blast struck its chest, not enough to destroy it, but enough to distract it. "Now!" Lyra cried, and the girls pressed their hands together, sending a wave of light through Ethan. The energy burned, but it was not pain, it was strength. For the first time, Ethan felt their power flowing through him, not draining, but joining. Light surged outward, slamming into the construct. The glowing chest cracked, sparks flying as the stolen energy inside it rebelled. The monster staggered, roaring as its body shook violently. The guards behind them fell back, blinded by the brightness. Ethan shouted with every ounce of his spirit, pushing the weapon forward as the light poured through him. The construct let out one final roar before collapsing in a storm of fire and sparks. Silence followed, broken only by the sound of heavy breathing. Ethan fell to his knees, exhausted, but alive. The alien girls surrounded him, their glowing marks now steady and strong. They had not been drained, they had shared, and in sharing, they had found balance. Lyra knelt beside him, her hand warm on his shoulder. "You are not just caretaker. You are guardian now." Ethan looked at them, his chest heavy with emotion. He had come here as a desperate man, signing a contract for survival. But now he was standing in a hangar with beings who had trusted him with their lives. He had uncovered the truth, fought the monster built from their pain, and won. The strangest job in the galaxy had turned into destiny. The girls guided him toward a small transport ship at the edge of the hangar. Its doors opened with a soft hiss, the lights inside welcoming. Ethan helped each of them aboard, his heart racing with both fear and hope. When he stepped inside last, he looked back one final time at the burning wreck of the facility. He knew the fight was not over. Others would come. The corporations would not give up their prize so easily. But now he was no longer alone. As the ship lifted into the dark void of space, the alien girls sang softly. Their voices were tired but filled with hope, a melody that carried through the cabin like a promise. Ethan sat among them, his hands trembling but his spirit stronger than ever. He was no longer just Ethan the worker. He was Ethan the protector, chosen not by contract but by trust. And as the stars stretched before them, he whispered to himself, the strangest job in the galaxy was the most important one.